Hey guys, Jayden Seahawks here, and I just wanted to contribute to OMGs O-line discussion. So the other day I went through and I ran some numbers on offensive line, and I graded out every single offensive line in the league from 1 to 32. And we have like a little list, and we're going to go through the numbers. Obviously, some of these numbers are skewed. Certain teams played more games than the others, so maybe some teams are off a few rankings here and there, but I think it's overall fairly accurate. It's not going to be 100% accurate, but let's just go through what the numbers say. So the top 5 rated offensive lines, I have the Vikings, the Packers, the Eagles, the Raiders, and the Titans. Vikings have an 87.2. Same with the Packers, 87.2. Eagles have an 84.6. Same with the Raiders, and then the Titans have an 82.2. And in the top 5 rated offensive lines, I have a couple notes here. So only one team has a record over 500 in the top 5. We have the Vikings at 3-4, Packers at 4-2, Eagles, the only one team, 4-2, Raiders at 1-5, and then the Titans are at 3-3. In that top 5 with those offensive lines, we only have one team in the top 15 offense, which is the Vikings. They're at 11. And then no teams in the top 10. Same when we head over to points per game. When we look at points per game, we got 25, 28, 15, 31, and 18. It's just not looking real good. However, when we slide on over into rushing, obviously Hotep and the Vikings have a pretty good rushing attack. They're number 2. But when you look at the rest, none of them are in the top 15. The closest one we have is 17 and 18 with the Titans and the Raiders. And obviously, that has to do with, but it may have to do with user preference. You can never really tell with things like that. And then when we head over to passing, we have one team in the top 10 that happened to be number 10, and that's the Eagles. But the rest are in the bottom. Actually, all the bottom 23. We have 23, 24, 26, and then down when you go to number 6, we have 25, the Jags. So none of those offensive lines really seem to be helping with a passing attack. But once again, you can always use the user argument. You never know how good the user is at passing, how good he is at making reads, the defensive lines he's played. These are just the numbers when you look at them raw. No account for any of those other variables. And then I'm going to expand this argument to the top 10. So when we open this up to the top 10, we now have 5 teams with a winning record, so 4 more teams. The Jags at 5-2, the Rams at 5-1, the Cowboys at 5-2, the Browns at 4-2. All join the party with winning records. But we only get 2 more teams in the top 15 in terms of offense. The Cowboys come in real strong at number 2, and then the Browns at number 10. So those are 2 fairly potent offenses, especially the Cowboys. However, again, only 2 more teams though with points per game. They're just really not high-flying scoring offenses. The Cowboys, even with that really good total offense, they come in at 5. And then the Browns actually score really high points per game. They have 2. The Rams are at 7. It's really not looking too good in terms of points per game. I mean, we have 3 of the top 10. The rest are really sitting around the middle of the pack. You're really going to have to analyze user in terms of that. But these offensive lines really aren't showing what you would expect. You would expect the top 10 offensive lines to have, top half of the league in terms of offense if they're really impacting the game as much as you would think. We have 4 teams though in the terms of top 15 in rushing. Like we mentioned earlier, Hotep at 2. We have the Cowboys at 1, the Steelers at 9, and the Jags at 15. Then we'll slide on over. We have 3 teams added with the top 15 passing offenses. I have the Cowboys at number 6 and the Browns at 7. And we already mentioned the Eagles at 10. So none of those top 5, none of the top 5 passing offenses are here in the top 10. Something you would expect, I would believe personally. I think if you have a great set of guys blocking for you, giving you extra time, I would expect them to find open targets and move the ball down the field vertically. So now we're going to change the argument. We're going to head down and look at the bottom 5 offensive lines in the league. We have 2 teams with winning records, so one more than actually the top 5 in terms of offensive lines. But they also, down at the bottom of the offensive line chart, we have some of the worst records in the league. At 32 in terms of offensive line, we have the Jets. Then we go to the Bengals, Cardinals, Bills, and Ravens. The Jets have a 73.1. Bengals have a 73.5. Cardinals have a 73.7. Bills have a 74.3, and the Ravens have a 74.5. Those bottom 3 teams all come in at 1 and 5. Besides the Jets, they have 1 and 6. Real bad records. Once again, you can argue user skill, or you can say offensive line. They're terrible offensive lines are preventing them from scoring points and winning games. You can make that argument. We'll just look at the numbers and see how it's going. So we have 1 team in the top 15 in terms of offense. It's the Bills. They're at 13. None in the top 10. When we head over to points per game, we have 2 in the top 15. We have the Bills at 9 and the Ravens at 12. So in terms of points per game, I mean, they're doing fairly well, I guess, for having such terrible offensive lines. However, when you head over and you look at it, they also have some of the worst points per game. We have 27, 29, and 32. Some of the very bottom of the league in terms of scoring points. But when you slide on over, we're going to look at passing. We have 2 of the top 15 in terms of passing. We have the Bills at 3 and the Ravens at 11 in passing offenses. But you also, when you look at this, some of the worst rushing offenses in all of the league. We have literally the whole bottom of the league. We have 29, 30, 31, and 32. All down at the very bottom of the league when we're rating offensive linemen. So the numbers are there to show that offensive line is taking up too much cap and you're not being productive on offense. And there's also numbers there to show that when you have an awful offensive line, you're going to have an awful record and you might have an awful offense. So truthfully, I think user skill is going to be the most important factor when we're talking about things like this. But just look at the numbers and tell me what you think.